All right, Matt, just coming off of the interview with Paige and discussing social media for law firms, specifically some of the big mistakes lawyers are making. And it was a practical, very insightful discussion. Would you agree, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paige is just a wizard when it comes to social media for law firms. Every time I speak to her, I learn something new. I know she's been doing such a great job working with law firms around the country, getting them more comfortable, as she says, getting comfortable in their own skin, getting on social media, whether it's video or posts or whatever it might be, finding their personality. I think is one of the biggest takeaways for me. Everybody has something unique to offer. A lot of lawyers think they don't. And I think her message is really geared towards those that are maybe sort of stuck in the middle and are not sure what their identity is, right? And how to find that unique value that they bring and then communicating that in a really authentic way was my biggest takeaway from the conversation.
I agree. I mean, I think in particular, as you said, that the listeners that have been maybe dabbling in social media, especially those who have been frustrated with lack of results or the unknown of social media, this episode is definitely for you. Paige, as you said, she's a wizard in social media. She's actually been at ConsultWeb's driving social media strategy for clients for over 5 years. She's been managing social accounts for over a decade now. A wealth of knowledge, and she really pulls out what I believe are the key reasons law firms have either been hesitant to pursue successful social media campaigns or have just simply flopped and have not been able to get much off the ground with their social efforts. So she's a strong writer. She's also she's pushed out books on her own. She is an incredible resource when it comes to content marketing, and obviously that's a big play in social media. So for our listeners, we really think you're going to like this one. Always feel welcome to drop us some notes or comments in the show. We'd love to hear any feedback you have. And as always, stay lawsome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another LAWsome podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Jones, along with my new co-host, Matt Smyers. Today, we're going to be diving back into Season 5 of LAWsome with our very own Paige Cook. Matt, what are we covering for our listeners today?
Well, if you're a lawyer with any presence on social media, today's topic is just for you. We're covering the biggest social media branding mistakes lawyers keep making. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you. Excited to be
So
here.
let's jump right in. What's the biggest mistake you see attorneys making on social media today?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one is definitely being boring, being forgettable. And if you hear this and you're like, "Am I boring? Am I forgettable?" Maybe you should probably look into it. And we're going to talk about today the ways to help your brand stand out on social media and avoid that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, I think I've wrestled with that myself. I'm a pretty boring person, if you ask my wife and my family. So, naturally, social media is definitely an area where I know as a marketer it's important to be. But I think I probably fall into that myself. And so I can definitely relate with any lawyers who are feeling that. So, Paige, my question, given that you've had all this time and experience in social media working with lawyers, why is it so tempting to feel like it's better to blend in, if you will, as a lawyer, maybe kind of fall in the trap of the average Joe or the average Jane? Why is that? Why is the mindset the way it is today in the legal field?
Standing out is scary. It's really easy to, see what everyone else is doing and just go with the flow and kind of fit into that mold and that standard. Um, Especially for a business, because not only are you putting yourself out there, you're putting your actual business and your clients, this is what they're going to see. And when you stand out, all eyes are on you, good or bad, and people are going to judge you and your brand no matter what. And that's just, that's scary for people too, just in general, like dressing differently. But in order to avoid falling into this trap, you have to be really comfortable in your own skin. And you have to be really comfortable knowing your brand and knowing your audience. Um, it takes a lot to know about yourself and know about your business to cultivate that unique perception of your law firm.
Yeah, I think the, you talk about that fear, right, of standing out, and the temptation is try to be all things to all people because you don't want to turn anyone off, right? I think the lawyers who realize that, um, look, their brand, their message may not appeal to everyone, right? And they're okay with that, are the ones that see the greatest success, right?
Exactly.
I'm from my experience too. I think there's somewhat maybe two different camps here as well. I think you have the true, I'll say, quote unquote, marketing law firm, where that's their business model. They want to market. They understand the importance of marketing, and they're leveraging social media and creating really unique angles of content to stand out. I often think that that camp, they're okay. They're pushing the limits. They're accepting the certain level of risk. They're embracing the fear and they're pursuing that. From my experience, it's often more of the well experienced, the the law firm that probably has more litigation experience. They've served clients for a long time. They've really worked hard to build a reputation. In many instances, for those law firms, they haven't spent a whole lot of money or time or effort in thinking through a unique brand and how can they stand out from the crowd because they've leaned on their own, results for clients to stand out. So, I don't know what, your two thoughts are in those two different camps, but I think it definitely, from my experience, it's more challenging for those firms that have kind of really held on to the traditional aspect of their firm and just say, if we take good care of our clients, that's going to continue to be our driving force. What's your all's experience in that? Have you seen that as well in the marketplace?
I've definitely seen it. Absolutely. And my biggest advice for those people who do want to improve their social media is just as simple as getting in front of the camera. Just snap a photo outside of a courthouse and just say you're on your way. Um, you know, take a video of your office, some behind the scenes type stuff, just so people can place the business with the face.
Mhm. Yeah, creating knownness, relatability. Can you give us any examples there, Paige, where you've seen a firm commit to a unique brand voice, and how that's ultimately paid off for them?
Yes, absolutely. The first one that comes to mind every single time that somebody says branding and law firm is Kev Kennedy on TikTok. That's the first person I think of all the time. Um, he really picked up TikTok and ran with it whenever it was first kind of getting off of the ground. And for many years, he's leaned into his humor and, real life experiences with legal stuff, but putting a spin on it to make it funny. And he's also incorporated his office staff into it. And many people, feel like they know him based off of his videos.
Mm.
Yeah, you make a great point there. People feel like they know him, right? And that brings us back to the old adage that people hire lawyers, not law firms. And I think that's an excellent point. If you put content out there that is allowing that prospective client, the general public, to get to know you as a lawyer, your firm, your people, right? You mentioned about having, employees on there. You're giving them the opportunity to get to know you and get comfortable with you and make a determination, an emotional connection there. To say, yes, this is the type of lawyer, the type of law firm, that I'm looking for to represent me. Kind of shifting gears quickly, Paige, just sort of to the practical, right? I think these conversations generally are so valuable. When we're talking about the top level, uh, concepts around branding and social media, but to you know turn it to the practical a little bit. If someone feels like they're just blending in, right, and you make a great point that you typically it if that's the case. What would you say practically would be the first thing you would tell them to do differently if they feel like they're just kind of blending in?
There are two things that come to mind. The first thing I'm going to say is stop selling on every single post. It's fine every now and again, but if the only thing you're putting out there is, 3 things to do after a car accident, and the last item is call an attorney or call your law firm every single time, people don't care about that. It's great knowledge now, like print it out and hand it out as a flyer or something, but what are people really gaining from that if it's the only thing that you have to say? So I would say to incorporate more diverse post types. I would do the behind the scenes work, get in front of the camera, record some videos, asking questions that people truly want to know the answers to. Make yourself an informational and educational source that they trust so that whenever something does happen, they think of you in the future. Because no one thinks in everyday life, oh, I'm going to need a lawyer tomorrow. So you want to make yourself into a person that they can trust and call in the future.
Mm.
Great point.
Yeah, I agree, and this is I want to kind of come full circle back to a topic from earlier, in that there's a real challenge for certain I'll say very professional, um, very experienced law firms to kind of take that next step and show some vulnerability on social media. There's clearly a balance in the professionalism alongside personality, because they want to be very careful on what they portray to the public. They recognize that there are jurors, there are judges, there are opposing counsel members that have the ability to see and consume this content just as much as their prospective clients, which naturally gives them some pause in how far to go when it comes to showcasing personality. So what tips do you have for our listeners, Paige, when it comes to truly finding that ideal balance between professionalism and personality?
Yeah. So you don't always have to be the loudest person in the room to showcase your personality. You don't have to have a wacky personality to put yourself out there. Though if you do, lean into it. That's great too. Um, I would say to speak to your audience and your clients like you would your clients in person. That's going to be the easiest way for you to connect with people, is to just treat those online people just like you would if they walked through the door.
It's good advice. I know too. There's often skepticism on, is this the right brand? Is this the right voice that we're putting out there? What would you tell someone who's maybe that's the only thing that's holding them back from pursuing a personalized social media effort? Do you tell them that no, what you pursue today is what you need to stick with, and let it, kind of let it ride? Or is there flexibility in evolving it if they find that that brand that they've chosen to portray to the public is not truly resonating? What's your advice there?
There's absolutely a balance between being consistent and evolving. Um, and it's a hard balance to find, especially in the beginning for people who are just starting out, really figuring out their voice. And one thing that I would do to kind of guide your law firm is to have a UVP and let that kind of be your basis. And a UVP is just a unique value proposition. What is it that you bring to your clients that is going to guide your voice and let them know this is exactly who you are? How can you incorporate that into all of your messaging across social media and across other channels as well? But allow yourself time to experiment and see what people are receiving well and what's not doing so good, and adjust accordingly.
If you don't mind, Paige, I think what I'm hearing, I just want to repeat back to you so our listeners are clear on that. The whole idea of identifying your persona as a brand and the direction to take, there are a lot of intangible elements there that may or may not resonate with the audience. But what is true likely is that unique value proposition. The key differentiator or differentiators on why people hire you to begin with. In most instances, that is evergreen. It's going to stay true and consistent year after year, as long as your business doesn't make any dramatic changes. But what I'm hearing you say is that there are certain ways to position that, or certain messaging to articulate those unique value propositions to the public that very well may be worth testing over time. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. And an example of that could be, the consult was one of the consult web's taglines that I find to be very strong, and that's the nation's most sought after legal digital marketing company. So just having some kind of tagline like that that you want to stand firm on and really base some marketing around is really going to help.
Yeah, definitely give that and to be consistent with it, right? When you identify that value proposition that you referred to, make sure that you're consistent with it, not only in your messaging, your marketing, but that it's internal, right? That it becomes a part of the internal culture so that everyone in the law firm, from intake to, to the lawyers, is living that value proposition on a daily basis. So, kind of bringing things back to the practical page, what are three things that you think an attorney or law firm should do today to improve their social media presence?
The very first thing that attorneys and law firms should do is evaluate their social media presence. Check out if you're making some of these mistakes. Are you only selling to people? Are you just posting blog posts? If you are posting those blog posts, are you just posting the links? How are you speaking to potential clients? And trying to figure out if they're going to receive that information in a digestible way, in a memorable way. Would this blog post look better or perform better if I recorded a video and spoke on it for a couple of minutes? Um, Knowing what your starting point is going to help you set up a plan and a strategy to make your brand stronger. And second, I would say get comfortable being in front of the camera. Because again, people don't want to stare at your logo all the time. They want to know exactly who you are. Who are they trusting their cases with? And then the third thing, I would say consistently engage with people. Get out there and network. If you make a connection in person, direct them to your social media. Like, hey, if you like what we did here at, an event they sponsor or something, actively suggest people follow you on social media. And then when you get them there, make sure you're interacting with them if they drop a comment on your posts.
Yeah, outstanding, and that consistency is so important, right? You they have to own it, and they have to, um, it has to be woven into everything that they do, right? So always looking for ways to grow those subscribers, to offer fresh, interesting content. And I love your point about getting in front of the camera, and I think one of the big hurdles for a lot of lawyers when it comes to that getting in front of the camera, one is time, right? Time and budget, but there are ways to do that, and if you would maybe touch on that a little bit, there are ways to do that without breaking the bank, and without needing to spend hours upon hours every week, to get on video. Do you have some kind of practical takeaways for the lawyers
Yeah.
who are listening that
So
will do that?
the first thing about being comfortable in front of the camera is, and I know I tend to struggle with this as well, it can be really difficult to look into a device and talk to it like it's a person. And what I would suggest for that is, have an office staff member, have a family member just kind of in the room with you, and they're actively asking you the questions. Have a conversation with a person instead of the device, and that might help get you out of the comfort zone. And in terms of making the time for it, there are two methods that I've used and I've seen other attorneys use, and it really just depends on what your schedule looks like and how you prefer to do things. One, you could make, 5 to 10 minutes per day in your schedule, maybe even less than 5. If you're recording a 1-minute video, 60 seconds to 90 seconds for social media is kind of the sweet spot anyways. So you don't have to spend hours recording necessarily. Or you could not shoot them daily or not shoot them every few days, and you could just bulk do them all on one day, on like a Friday, or just when you have some downtime, shoot like 10 different topics all at once. And then cut those up and edit them and schedule them out. They don't have to go live all at one time.
I also think a lot of lawyers are striving for perfection in their videos that they put it out there, and that's getting it done is more important than it being perfect, right?
Everybody has an iPhone. So the excuse of, not having recording equipment, and it's just kind of something that I have seen people hold themselves back on. And realistically, on social media, the less polished versions of things tend to do much better than like a commercially produced kind of thing. Because then people know like you're a real person and this is just you. It's a little bit more unplugged.
Yeah, it's all about personality and creating more knownness. And that's the thing. It's like our listeners today, they're hearing this, and hopefully if you've been on the fence, maybe you've had some internal resistance to this. This is enough of an encouragement to take that first step. The biggest thing is it's not going to be perfect. That shouldn't be your North Star or your desired end goal. The end goal is to create more knownness for your firm. And the only way you're going to do that is to take some of this risk and showcase some personality. Paige, it's been a real pleasure. I know there are several takeaways. Hopefully, our listeners are willing to hear and do the hard work in getting that ball rolling. And the biggest thing again is consistency. Stay with it. It's not going to. It's rarely going to blow your mind in the first several months of this. This is something that builds on itself and snowballs over time. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't already, we definitely are committed to continuing to deliver as much valuable information through the LAWsome podcast as we possibly can, bringing in great speakers like Paige, who have a world of experience in very unique legal marketing and management topics. So we encourage you to subscribe to the LAWsome podcast if you've not done that already. And Paige, just once again, thank you for taking time to share your insights with the industry.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.